I'll start to let my panel actually introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their company. But we have Jason Malone, who is the president of Tap In Entertainment. We also have Polo Kerber, who's the head of talent and partnerships at Playmaker. Amir Brown of Breaker Plus, he's the co-founder and the president. And we have, holding it down for the ladies, we got Ashton Smith-Godin of Switch Cultures. And so a lot of people have asked me, like, what is, the new wave of creators, and like, really, what does that mean? I think that, one of the things that we're witnessing right now is the fact that creators are coming in all types of shapes and forms. And so whether that's sports or entertainment, whether businesses are actually becoming, creative brands and they're able to monetize off of their social media posts and the things that they're doing, we really found that creators are starting to take a different shape. They're starting to own a lot more of their creative IP, figure out ways that they can directly monetize, use a lot of these social media platforms as ways to really, gain followers and, really treat it as like a click funnel. And so with that, I wanted to start with Jason, just to give a quick introduction about you and your company, and then we'll just make our way down the line, and then we'll start with the questions.
Yeah, thanks, Terrell. So Tap In Entertainment is a multi-channel network where basically we aggregate content across different niches and create communities across those niches. And so that multi-channel aspect is distributed across social media. We have an OTT platform, and we're also in the process of launching a linear platform through different local power television stations. And so the idea is to use the power of data and aggregate communities across the different content categories and sort of form an ecosystem through which those followers of that content can engage and sort of create its own ecosystem where they can monetize, they can promote their business, their brand, and just build overall awareness for what they're doing. And so one of the largest, we have a couple of different verticals that are pretty significant, but our two largest verticals are in youth and high school sports. And we also have a pretty large HBCU following with HBCU Live TV.
Thank you.
Yeah, hey everybody, my name is Amir Brown, co-founder, president of Breaker. Breaker is an end-to-end influencer marketing platform. We specifically focus on the music niche. So we originally started out connecting independent artists with independent content creators, and they transact in our patented escrow system. We've since evolved to work with all the major labels, so Sony, UMG, Warner, and all the major content creator agencies, and it's the same initial premise. We wanted to create transparent pricing models for creators. We wanted to allow invoices to be deployed at a net 0 versus net 60, net 90, et cetera. And we wanted to make sure that the reporting at a corporate level is consolidated and aggregated so that a CFO at the top of a record label can say, hey, how much money did I spend on influencer marketing? What was the results? And at the click of a button, anybody within that entire organization with access rights can create those reports. So that's Breaker, and happy to be here.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ashton. I'm the COO and co-founder of Switch Cultures, a basketball media company where we cover NBA, WNBA, overseas G League, college, high school. So basically like every subsector of basketball that there is. And I'm alongside my co-founder and my brother Jordan, as well as Anthony Goods. They both played basketball. And our whole mission is to make sure that we make media coverage equitable amongst all those sectors. So sometimes when a player goes overseas, you don't really see them often, or you don't see the coverage that they deserve. So we make sure that we highlight them as well as the NBA side and get some looks at some upcoming high school kids in the basketball space.
Hey everybody, I'm Polo Kerber. I'm the head of talent and partnerships for Playmaker. Playmaker serves as two sides. The side that I'm on, I represent NBA, NFL, and NIL athletes, really just helping them with their brand partnerships, their content creation, and just managing their social media. And then on the flip side of that, Playmaker as a whole is a media company. We have about 20 million followers across our platforms on social media, and we really work with brands just to, help create content for them, help grow their socials as well, and push it out however we can on our platforms.
Yeah, dope. Thank you all. And one of the things that I really wanted to start off with, we'll start off with you, at the end, when we look at brands and brands, wanting to change up the traditional ways that they market, the way they get their products out. Obviously, influencer marketing is like really big. And with the topic of this panel being like the new wave of creators, like what are some of the things that these different brands, these different organizations are looking for when they are partnering with like various creators?
Yeah, I think one is being organic and, looking for influencers, athletes, whoever they're partnering with that actually understand the product. And it's not just, oh, I'm posting this because I got paid, first of all. I think the other side is that when you look at traditional marketing, it was really like a lot of TV ads or, Super Bowl commercials, things like that. And people don't really watch TV that much anymore, or you can skip ads very easily. So everybody has their phones in their hands. When you look at some of these influencers, especially in the sports space, there's a lot of people that look up to them. So when you're working with a brand, if I post Pepsi and I have all these people that are following me that now they're thinking about Pepsi. So I think that's really what brands look for, and trying to be more organic and authentic is really what we try to go for.
Yeah. And just a quick follow-up to that. So like, do you think brands more so are just concerned about the reach, or they're concerned about, or they're very interested in like the actual creativity of the person that they're partnering with?
I think both. I think with us, with me having the platform that we have, we can guarantee those brands that they'll get that reach, but also being able to find a creator that doesn't necessarily need to have, millions and millions of followers to have an impact.
Yeah, and that's cool. And then I know, like we had a conversation around just the fact that like you provide like resources like for the creators. And so have you really seen a lot of opportunities for creators to start to learn like how to create?
Yeah, I think, just being like a one-stop shop, trying to make it as easy as possible really helps. So we try to take care of the production, the editing, bringing the brands to the table, and then also help pushing the reach out, so that the creator's job is as easy as it can be, and being able to help them monetize off of their social media platforms.
Yeah, exactly. I think monetization is like one of the key points. And so, Ashton, we had a little talk out, about you and your company and how you really chose to kind of cover sports. I really think it's important to have like non-traditional like media companies covering sports to really tell about that different, like the different side, right? You're going to see your ESPNs, you're going to see all the major like sports outlets, but really I think your company like provides like a particular view. So what has been some of the things that you've seen, and the type of content that you want to cover that separates you from like the traditional capturing of content?
Yeah, for sure. I noticed a lot in like traditional media. I did a lot of research. Their upper, like the CEOs and stuff, they didn't really play sports. And that was the first thing I realized. I'm like, how do you own a company and you never touched a ball? Like, that's kind of crazy to me. But so, me and my brother and my co-founders, we just made it a priority to make sure that we show the side of the athlete, because we were athletes too at one point. And we understood how it felt to be on the other side of the camera. So like, I didn't play basketball per se, but my brother did. And if he got dunked on or if somebody he knew got dunked on, we understood how that felt and how that can make you like, how it can bring down your marketability sometimes. So when we go into spaces, I feel like our network really respects us because we don't always put that out for clicks, because we value our network more than, trying to go viral per se. So I would say what really makes us different than traditional TV is like just our network and our mindset going in and actual knowledge of the game of basketball and what we try to put out on social media, allowing our followers to actually learn the game, to see a different side of the athlete, able to, feel like a community, understand the culture of hoop. It's more than just a highlight. It's a lot more layers to it.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, I think it's important because we kind of talked about, the recruiting cycle of like athletes in high school. I remember when I was going to high school, we had to create VHS tapes. We had to, try to ship them out, figure out how to get some money to even get them, get a VCR that works, things like that. So, so I was a football player, played basketball in high school, but ultimately like went to school at San Jose State. So I have a lot of friends who like have actually made it, but I think it's important to look at how media is portrayed now, because now these young kids, they're actually able to create their own content, put it out there, Many of them are like editing on their own. And so like how is the landscape of the high school athlete playing a part into like the type of content that you actually captured?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I saw this interview that Austin Rivers actually did talking about like hoop culture and like the mixtapes and stuff. So I asked Batum off the Clippers, because he reposted it, how he felt, and he was saying how, you know, a lot of the younger kids are starting to fade away from, you know, a traditional bounce pass, like the critical basics of hoop that you need. Yeah, like the fundamentals, because they want to get the highlight tape so bad, you know. So I think, you know, to answer your question, it's really important for kids to still do the basics, as well as, you know, if you got it, you got it. Go ahead and do this, you know, like the flashy stuff too, but also hone in on your skills. So I think that is important. And for kids, like, if you do want to promote yourself, go for it. This is the best generation to do it. You have everything. Yeah. You really don't have an excuse, to be honest. But I think, definitely prioritize making yourself marketable. And I think that is something that a lot of kids, you know, should do. And I hope that we're doing a good job in leading in that aspect to help them, you know, do it the right way.
Yeah, definitely. And just setting that example of showing them
Exactly.
like what to do. So that's dope. So so I wanted to come next to Amir. I'm just working my way down the line, and Jason, just bear with us real here. But I'm actually really interested in like Breaker and like the things that you do, because I ultimately feel that, you know, sometimes creators don't know how to get with talent. Sometimes brands don't know how to actually connect. And so how have you seen, you know, like various artists, and maybe you could share a couple of success stories around like how Breaker has been able to kind of kick off someone and really be able to connect and make that impact?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I mean, one can say that like with the proliferation of TikTok and short form video that, you know, A&Ring is essentially like finding people online almost at this point. Now, mind you, I don't want to take away from their profession, right? You see anything else, producers, mixers, engineers, songwriters, etc., studios, like there's a lot that goes into A&Ring. But like identifying talent has now become like a community sourced activity, right? A bunch of kids in a small network can like find something that they really like, find a piece of the song that really resonates, and start creating content around it. And next thing you know, it's across America, right? Yeah. So I think, you know, just staying like at the ground level and knowing what's happening and having tools and resources to figure out what's bubbling is something that we focus on. You know, one of the artists that we worked with early on, who's now signed to Universal Island, Charlie on a Friday, we were able to work with him and connect him with content creators and test very small budgets to find the pockets of kids that would resonate with him before we went and deployed a bunch of capital. So I think like testing in influencer marketing is something that you don't really hear about a lot, but it's something that we do, particularly in music, because again, you don't want to spend across a demographic of people that, you know, the music doesn't resound with, or spend on a creative that just doesn't make sense. So we did that a lot on some of his early songs. Once we found that like Southern, like truck talk type of kids were really resonating with him. Mind you, he's from Seattle, but without the data and without the testing and without the access to these creators, we've indexed over 50 million creators across 40 data points each and all of their audiences. So being able to like come up with these hypotheses around the song, find a niche pocket that we think would work, find those niche kids. Now, mind you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have 1 million followers, and it doesn't mean they have to have 100 followers, right? It's all about their engagement, and I think the growth of their engagement. We don't focus on follower count much. Like we hear about this all the time, vanity metrics. They're important, but we know that algorithms reward content that's engaging, right? And if you can look at a kid and say, look, you had 5,000 followers last month, and this month you have 6,000, but also your engagement rate on your content has grown 100%, that's something significant. So we look out for people like that the algorithms are rewarding, and we start testing with them. Once it sticks, you deploy more budget. Once you see that continuing to work downstream, not only on the social reward, but the streaming, right? I should be able to see if I've spent $100,000 within 1 month on a single, and I target it where the pops are, whether it's the locations or, you know, whether it's just the general interest or the sentiment for the song, et cetera. So we use a lot of tools for like comment sentiment analysis and things like that. to really just find that niche. And then once you find it and it's working, then you double down on it. So that's a little bit of like the philosophy we use. We still manage Charlie to this day, and he has 2 gold records on the way, and we're just happy and proud of him.
Yeah, dope. I don't know if you all caught that, but this guy's an engineer, he's something about data, he's something about analytics. I think those are like really important things that a lot of creators definitely should understand. When you look at the analytics and you can see like where these trends are, you can see like what type of people are watching your content, where the fall off is, and really understand where you can insert ads if you're on YouTube and you're monetized. And so I think it's definitely important. Like one of the follow-ups to that was, so you guys said that so you also like manage the artists as well and like the creators on the platform. So is it like full service?
No. So, I mean, we called ourselves breakers. So the initial concept was like, we have to break somebody, right?
Yeah.
But we also had to come up with a hypothesis around influencer marketing. It's not just, hey, we have creators. Hey, you have money. Let's transact, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the wild, wild west. That's that's Web 1 almost, right? We wanted to have a data-driven approach. So it's also a multi-tenant environment, meaning I can go spend $100 and find some learnings around what works for me as an artist, right? Mm-hmm. And what works for the creators as well. Our system is tracking all those data points. So who are you as an artist? What is your song? What is the genome of your song? We track that. Who are some of the creators in our database that have a similar musical genome? Mm-hmm. So I'll go to a TikToker's page. Well, I won't, an algorithm will. But we'll go to a TikToker's page, go look at their last 20 posts, their last 20 high-performing posts, see which ones had music in it. We'll take those songs and run that back through our music AI system called AIMS that we use and come up with a creator genome. So the moment that you even say, I want to find creators, and you upload a song into our platform, we're able to say, here's like a subset of creators just off of the musical taste alone that would make sense. And here's what's performing. So this person has 100,000 and this person has 100,000, but you have a rock song. They don't even have rock music on their page. They're hip hop focused. Or they have rock music on their page, but the content did very bad. So we use all that data to even have a subset of initial recommendations. And then we also track, okay, who did you actually send an offer out to? Who responded? If they responded, did they accept your initial price? If they didn't accept your initial price, how much above that did they actually counteroffer? Did they just completely reject you? Right? So we're learning as the system is being used. And then for the next user to come through, they're able to benefit from those learnings from every single person. Some of the labels we work with, they like to have it in a single tenant environment, meaning I don't want to share my insights, but they're deploying enough capital where they're also still able to learn and create efficiencies as they run in more and more campaigns.
Yeah, dope. I appreciate that. Like very powerful, and I can see it being like very useful for a lot of artists. I'm definitely gonna like turn them on to Breaker and things like that. We'll finish up our first rounds of introductory questions to Jason. So you have Tap In Entertainment, and one of the things that we kind of talked about, obviously we're like working together and collaborating, but I feel like this entire panel is all about community and collaboration. Every person that I've kind of talked to has been about like the culture, has been about understanding how can we come together to grow, how can we represent someone to help them understand how to be a better creator. And so we talked about the aggregation model. There's a lot of content out there where people don't get seen. Sometimes people don't know how to market themselves, but they may have great content. And so one of the things that you kind of mentioned was about your aggregation concept. And so can you just share with us a little bit about that and like how have you seen that be successful and helping other creators get more exposure?
Yeah, definitely. So when we started the business about 7 years ago, the idea was when you look at when cable became popular back in the 70s and the 80s, cable was built on the basis of niche content, right? So every channel had a specific niche, and that's how certain networks were able to take off. You had some that were doing, that were kind of taking a broad approach, but most of them were niched down in their content. And so when we looked at how we were going to start our platform, we looked at these categories that had a lot of really cool things taking place in their respective ecosystem, but for, they weren't getting the media coverage that would warrant the impact that they were making in their community. So we first started our platform focusing on youth sports. I also am a former athlete, and so I remember the impact that my own coaches had from my experience and also just in the community as a whole. So we started off the network highlighting what these coaches were doing and the impact that they were having in the kids. And so when we started sort of creating that content, we noticed these network effects just by focusing on people that didn't necessarily have the same media coverage. They didn't know how to get themselves out there. And so in doing that, we were able to build our network pretty quickly, right? So if you think of it with a youth football coach might have 20 to 30 kids on his team. Well, each of those 20 to 30 kids has aunties, uncles, and so forth that care about what they're doing. So just by us shining light on that, it allowed for our network to grow pretty quickly. And so we saw that model, and we started to replicate that across different categories where that same sort of dynamic existed. And so one of our largest platforms being HBCU Live TV, it's the same thing, right? For historically black colleges and universities, about 107 of them. And we look at, when we hear HBCUs, we kind of talk about it in an umbrella, or maybe there's 8 or 10 schools that everybody knows about. But each of those schools has their own independent networks. They have their own things that are happening in that respective community. So by us highlighting what's happening in sports, what's happening at the band, what's happening with the Greeks that are there on campus, the lifestyle, we're able to sort of create these micro networks that go viral within that micro community just by shining light on something in that community that everybody else is not focused to, they're not privy to, but those in that small community are. And just by doing that over and over, we're able to sort of build these nodes in our network that allows for us to have this very large, expansive network, even though there's all these smaller, it's built on these smaller communities.
Yeah, not dope. Yeah, so like one of the things, it is All-Star Weekend, so like welcome everyone to Salt Lake. If this is your first day here, welcome, enjoying the code. But one of the things that I actually wanted to ask about Polo, a lot of artists, a lot of athletes, they want to get in their creative bag, and we hear about that a lot. So whether it's starting a podcast, whether it's starting a production company, whether it's, them just creating a show or some type of content, what have you seen, NBA athletes since we're at All-Star Game, like some of the type of things that they've been doing to be creative, to ultimately invest in their hobbies and to continue to build out these partnerships?
Well, I think with the NBA, you're in a unique position because you have so many televised games and so many people see who you are. So I think what athletes are doing now that's interesting is just understanding to take advantage of their platform while they have their platform. So you see like Draymond Green, as soon as the game is over, he's going and he's doing a podcast episode, or Pat Beverly, and there's so many athletes that are taking advantage of that now. That's been a really big priority for us, is launching athlete podcasts and just helping them to kind of take advantage of that. You get exposure, you stay relevant, you're talking about current topics, and fans are interested in that. When you as an athlete can feel comfortable and have your own platform to be able to speak your opinion instead of necessarily having a reporter ask you, or you feel like you're getting attacked, and all the partnerships that you can put around a podcast also help you as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's super important to be authentic, because when you are watching these podcasts, it's also you're just, like you're in a room with them, like you're having a conversation. I think a lot of people gravitate towards that. I know some of my favorite podcasts are podcasts that I just, put on in the car, and it's like someone sitting next to me while I'm driving, while I'm dipping. So I think it's really important. It's like you actually you get a lot of opportunities to actually interview these artists. So these athletes. So how have you seen the difference between the podcast athlete when you're interviewing them versus the when you're watching them in a press conference?
I think the press conferences are really different, because I think people forget that they're people too.
Yeah.
So if you ask them a question and then they get kind of mad, I'm like, well, you asked them a question that made them mad. They're people. So I just go in there, just asking them stuff I've seen or something that I've seen on the court, and just treat them like how they deserve to be treated, like a person. And yeah, I could definitely see how it is a difference in the pressers in comparison to how you were saying in the podcast, because they're able to control their narrative. You got to realize when people are asking athletes questions all the time, they kind of have to give a politically correct answer, because that answer is going to be projected in front of millions.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're giving me the wrap it up BQ. So I'll kind of end with my last question. So we kind of talked about music and the metaverse, and obviously being a creative in that. So what are some of the opportunities that you kind of feel are opportunities for artists to be able to monetize like their music, like in Web3 spaces and things like that.
Yeah, honestly, in that case, I don't look at them much different than an athlete, right? Like owning your communities, being able to own your voice, being able to sell your products directly to your fan base, being able to being able to participate in the monetization at the highest levels of all of your products as well, right? Mm-hmm. So like maybe being an equity partner in the infrastructure that you're running your platform off of. I mean, you see a lot of these Web3 music companies that are essentially having artists build it with them, right? Because it's all tokenized. I can give you an X% of the company as you help build it with me, and you can monetize your art on top of it. So I think just ownership is the key theme across athletes, artists, etc. And being able to control your ownership means that you can disperse pieces of your art or your ownership or your brand the way you see fit, whether it be a podcast versus having to sit up there and like get interviewed, etc. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then like, well, let's see, how are we looking on time? We're good? Yeah, we got 2 minutes. So I'll end with that, Jason. So we kind of talked about, social media, those type of creators are obviously, using social media tools to, like, you can monetize, but ultimately I've been seeing a huge following of how do you get that percentage of your followers? You have 100,000 followers, how do you get that 3%? So like, have you seen like a different wave of ways that people can directly monetize, whether it's like OTT or VOD or just creating some type of like Patreon type page, and like what have been some of the trends that you've been seeing like over the past few years?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's really cool now that essentially because of this new social, these new social platforms, that creators can essentially have their own direct-to-consumer relationship, and they can do it at scale, and they could also do it at a level where, if they only have 1,000 followers, they can still monetize and generate revenue from the content that they're creating, whether it be as a side hustle or if they want to do it full time. And so what we try to do with our platform is to give those micro influencers a platform where they can get broader exposure and to potentially gain more followers from people in the community that may not necessarily know about them because they don't know how to promote themselves, right? And so it's kind of like we can be their megahorn in that, their bullhorn in that sense, to let more people know about what they're doing, while at the same time we try to develop relationships with certain creators to help them further monetize what they're doing, whether that's through selling t-shirts. There's ways that you can put your content up through your own OTT platform, or even just on your website and plug in a programmatic ad platform where you can generate revenue that way. And so there's a lot of different ways. I know we're short on time, but there's a lot of different ways in which these micro-influencers can generate revenue. And so we try to serve as a conduit to help them do that, while at the same time shining a bright light, because we have a much larger audience. We're doing about 10 to 15 million impressions per week on our content. So for someone that has 1,000 followers, 1,500 followers, that's a big deal if we post their content and drive traffic to what they're doing to help them further expand whatever it is that they're trying to promote or sell.
Yeah, thank you. I wish you had a little bit more time. I'll just ask, like, we end on like a quick note. How I like to end a lot of panels. This is a new wave of creators. We'll start at the end. What type of creator are you looking forward to in 2023?
Quickly, I would just say just somebody that is willing to learn, willing to try new things, and figure out ways to engage with their audience.
Same question. We'll just work our way down.
I would say someone that just loves what they do and is really passionate and trying to help whatever field they're in, and just improve their environment and everybody around them.
Yeah, for me, I love working with artists that love to work, right? Like, you can put all types of infrastructure and resources and dollars around somebody, but if they don't wake up every day before you do to ask you, hey, what's next, it's going to be very hard for you to drive that person's career. So I love working with artists that are that way already, and I look forward to working with more that are that hands-on in their destinies and their careers. Yeah,
and I would say just be everywhere. Meet your audience where they are. Be cross-platform. We consume content now almost as much as we consume food. So be in a position where you can put your content, meet your audience where they are across all platforms. Don't get stuck on just one platform. Just be diverse in how you're promoting and pushing your stuff out there.
Okay, cool. No, thanks everyone for joining this panel. I could have talked to them all day about like multiple things. We'll be sure to share like all their contact information on all the panels, all the flyers. But again, my name is Terrell Johnson. We are at the SLiC Summit, and this is the New Wave of Creators panel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
A lot more questions. All y'all on my podcast. Right. Terrell Johnson, CEO and founder of entrepreneur on Los Angeles, California.
Brown, co-founder and president of Breaker.
Hi, I'm Ashton Gooding, co-founder and CEO of SLiC Cultures, and there's a lot of branches of it.
That's yours.
It's one of the few days mine aren't. So we're just enjoying it.